Call today's public safety meeting. Six to order.
Cameron,
Here.
Randy,
Here.
Candace, Kevin, Tammy, all present.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
No presentations that are being.
No, nothing.
Regular public comments, further opportunities there. If you please, 3 minutes while committee heard input. Not discuss or act on any issue this time. Notice that.
I have no comments. I didn't receive any emails, nothing like that. And nobody online.
Approval of minutes from September 9th, 2025. I move to approve. Second.
I'll second.
All right, motion and second approving the minutes. Any discussion? Okay, all in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed the same. So moved. Report from all of the officers. The full vote today. First day is the meeting. That means anything. Chief Tony said, they made their new last couple of months since we've had to. Perspective.
I'll just note now that these plans kick off.
It's just funny. It's kind of that time already. It's cold out. But
Yeah, I guess so. I'm already feeling behind. So that's kicked off. Welcome anyone to join in the planning committee, but you know the chiefs that are here, of course, participation. As it relates to public safety, Mill Creek Parkway is this topic that comes up every year. Just a few months ago, it feels like we want to get a little bit more aggressive in closing that street. Mill Creek Parkway for that day. I think this is the year to do that. Take it down to that. Become our suggestion. But it has been a debate. What we considered well, two of the three bands are that we have booked already. And some of the samples, so it's called which is good. People from the band and Archer Boogie, two like really exciting things. So we'll be kicking that off. Our truck is planning, but that safety is going to be the topic that I want to just make sure we address together. Any questions on discussion? You know, topic working every year. So put that in if there's a next month.
Well, we can, I think, but I think we looked last year at the things.
Yep.
Past and I think we got all we missed some things here.
Yeah.
So I'm not sure.
Yeah.
Thing for this year's start phase.
I think the committee in general and my opinion, I think we need to close it for that day. It's just too much traffic, too much congestion, too many people in and out. Just makes sense. And it's my understanding that in the permit, it says closed. It just wasn't closed.
Just wasn't executed.
So, so I don't think, I mean, I think the support is here for this. And I think if we just follow the permit, the way it's written, then it should be fine. And I mean, notification of the businesses and the residences falls on the village, is what I think we learned, right? Cameron?
That and the little, sort of this like little
Right.
things or something, and I think it produces. I think there's a couple things we can do. Get better, you know, stuff.
And I know that Matt has looked at better roadblocking stuff, so he has access to some of that stuff. So,
I think when the permit comes through, I'll just make sure to bring it up to the village board, because I think it's just didn't do some things last year.
notification.
Didn't execute very well, so we'll do better this year. And probably where everybody's just like,
Just as a heads up, seeking to bring forward designated tree there this year within Xanadu. This is the only other time it's done, was probably really appropriate. We got within trophies, so that is something.
We have no special guests. I'm gonna leave that as just a line item in case we do. If anybody here in the committee thinks of a special guest that they'd like to hear from, like we've had in the past, don't hesitate to reach out and I can try to make those arrangements for that person to be here. Especially if we can give them some time.
well, from first responders, EMS.
We had 544 calls in 2025, that's 7 less than 2024. We had a record-breaking call volume in October of 67 calls. The village had 327 of those calls. Tomorrow was our district meeting at 7 at the firehouse, and we're hoping to get our new agreement signed. Our new rig, Rescue 33, is in service already. And every meeting that I go through for the county is predicting increase due to insurance costs and medication going sky high and co-pays. There's a lot of people that have already started. If they're on blood pressure medications, they take it one day, but not the second and third, and then they take it the fourth to try to make it until. So that makes sicker people, and they wait till the last moment to call. Well, which has already started because in January we've already had 3 pulses non-breathers in our territory. Our new website is up and running, and I'll be going to the village board because EMS is having issues with parking. Again,
What's the issues?
we have nowhere to park now that we've got 2 rigs. You have to park on the apron. My suggestion was there's a lot there for sale. You could make that public parking and give me 6 spots for EMTs. Because Millie's and the barber shop have all said that they would probably keep spots for the village if the village were to do that because they don't have. We can't park at TDS. We can't park at the post office. We can't park in their parking lot. And if there's snow, they will get together.
Has anybody looked at the cost of that?
No, I think it's you.
I just know that they've traditionally anything parking, traffic related ends up getting village board will deal with it, and then they're like kick it to this committee.
Okay. The one concern that I think Bobby brought up is the parking lot there, then people aren't going to use the crosswalk. Like if they will park there and go to coffee shop.
Right.
And that I was also gonna call TDS because they don't use that building very often. See if we could just park there.
Yep.
Instead of EMS meetings tomorrow.
Yep, 7 at the fire station. Yeah, that's the first thing. I said we weren't gonna do anything else until that. So I don't know to remodel or anything else, and I thought, yeah.
So end of the call, your last year, 145 calls, the sheet you have, the pie chart sheet, nothing totally out of whack on those two. With mutual aid, the top one is with mutual aid, and then the bottom one is just the 3 municipalities that make up the district. Village, village is the bulk, coverage is all the same. As far as the call money with the municipalities. And then on the backside, kind of the types of calls that go on. There was a significant uptick in fires. That's all fires, grass fires, structure fires, car fires. I think we had 3 car fires this year, and then there was a grass spraying, and so that kind of added up to that. And then the false alarm calls are kind of ticking back up again. We have one business that is adding to a lot of those. And you like clockwork when you have new subdivision. 7 to 10 years later, we're going there for carbon dioxide alarm calls. It's almost to the T. It's not fun, but it's one of those things. It's like kind of they will be there in a couple of years. Is it just people not changing? Is it something? Carbon dioxide detectors pretty much fail in 7 years.
Okay.
Like literally almost like. I don't know if they're programmed. I don't know if they're. It just seems, yeah. So that's really what I used to see that next time. Nothing. We're down by 14 calls. So a 5-year trend of upwards. That came down last year, which is good. It didn't seem that way later this year, but we're good. 35 numbers still holding at 35 numbers. We did the average out how many members per call. We average about 8 firefighters per call, which is very, it's a very good number. We lost a few employers, we lost a few people. I've got over 300 people who probably aren't going to ultimately buy a house or living here long term. Things like those are the factors that we look at. But, so far, we're really good. So I think we have 6 or 7 businesses that people are setting their place of work for anything. Their ships, someone calls, so those things are huge benefits. Yeah, that's what I was wondering about. Well, crap, I didn't make sense.
All right. We had a total of 4,799 calls for service, which is up 550 calls from last year. And if you remember, I brought up this number before. The year before I took over, we were at 1,600 calls for service. So we're super busy. The main calls, we've increased a lot of calls in, and I'll be bringing our annual report like I do every year. I'll bring it to the next meeting. Just waiting on some numbers to close out, but we're getting a lot of open record requests. We're up to 113. We had 113 record requests last year, whereas the year prior we had 13. So we're up literally 100 different requests. What basically people wanting copies of reports, copies of whatever we're doing or whatever. Some of the open record requests are blanket open record requests, like we've had several from people doing studies and things like that. Depends on the climate of the political climate. They'll want like how many females have been arrested during this month and how many, those kind of things. So we get they're called FOIP. Is it FOIP? They're just blanket requests, and so we have to fill those anyway. We haven't with state allows us to, but it hasn't become such a topic. I think if we continue in this rate, then yeah, there are some costs, like if we're providing a thumb drive and things like that, we do ship them a cost. If it's attorney, like a case that's going criminal, then it's almost automatic. They know, they'll send us. If it's traffic crashes, they already send us a record request fee. They understand there's, some cost. So we do get some back, but we could actually charge them for looking for the record for their time to, that law changed this year or last year. We've had multiple local ordinance violations. That stepped up because we're getting a lot more complaints, like even the permitting, like people building stuff without permits, grass, weeds, ice, those kind of complaints. We've established a protocol on how to deal with that, kind of standardized, so it's a little easier for when we actually have it. 911 disconnects are still high. We get about 88. We had 88 last year. It's always in the 80s. Assist EMS, we had 255 times that we assisted EMS and 35 times we assisted fire. At the same, we pretty much go to all of them unless we get disregarded. Or we're on another call, we can't go. Assisted a lot of agencies throughout the county, 66 different calls. We had over 730 vacation checks. So people leave town, and that's a big service turnaround. That wasn't happening very much before I got here. Now that's happening a lot, where we're getting people leave, entrust us with their houses, and so we kind of check their homes and things like that. We're still in the 500 range for information calls. That can range from anything from, hey, I think our neighbor's smoking weed, to I think, this is going on. So a lot of information calls. The more you're out in the community, the more you're going to get that, because people then just feel real comfortable telling you those things. Our big uptick, we had a really good uptick on juvenile complaints this year. We had 68 juvenile complaints. Roger is extremely busy at the school. We've had a couple of students actually hurt a couple of our officers, me included. I got bit by a student in the leg. So things are getting a little more dicey with the student body. Again, we try to go to as many special events as we can. Last year we had 132 special events that we attended. Traffic arrest, that is anytime you issue a citation, it's considered traffic arrest. So we had 306 citations and 884 traffic stops. So it's not even 50-50. We're giving people more warnings than we are citations for sure. I will have a full report, but extremely busy. We're down an officer with Nikki resigning. We've moved on to the corporate world, just working in banking. So we are in a hiring process. I've got several applicants and several phone calls with interest for our department. So I don't think we'll have any problem filling. That's one thing we've been lucky. I don't know. I'm thankful all the time, because there are departments that are not fully staffed, and so anytime we've lost somebody, we've had our fair share of possibilities. So we'll fill those spots. Otherwise, that's all I have. Or unless you have questions.
Have you implemented?
No. So we have to wait on that until we're fully staffed to get the 11 hours, which was disappointing to the staff. They were pretty frustrated because of that, but we did incorporate it in the union contract that we can start that at any time because of anticipation of someone leaving. So I'm hopeful that we'll have someone hired, and we've had, like I said, several interests and several phone calls about the position, and we've already had multiple applicants. So I feel in looking at the applicants, we've got good candidates. So we should be able to fill that spot.
Is there any way you can triage grass too long calls, ice too, ice on the sidewalk calls, or building permit to carbon masking or whatever?
I don't know if it's not embedded like that in the system. You want to know how many of those kind of calls we're getting?
No, true, ask that. Like, if you're getting a call,
Oh,
my neighbor's grass is too long, like someone from the parks department.
right. So the problem with that is, so this has been a topic of discussion for 5 years, but it was a topic of discussion way before my time too. The problem with this is the only legal authority to issue any kind of citations or enforcement is the police department on any local ordinance. So it would make no sense to have Carly try to navigate that when, if in fact she can't get it resolved, then she's gonna give it to us anyway. So we've navigated this with the attorney and he's like, the best cleanest way is for us to handle it ourselves. So our process is simple, is we make sure that it's a violation and then we give them 10 days to fix it. And if they don't fix it, then we issue a ticket, but we haven't had to. Everybody fixes it. Right. Well, right, we don't actually monitor it. We wait for the complaint. So no officers driving around checking graphs. If they're doing that, right. We receive we give a complaint and there's only one officer that's in charge of that. Taylor's the ordinance compliance officer. So if we get a complaint, we give it to Taylor. He goes down, makes sure it's a violation. Okay, it's a violation, serves them a letter. You got 10 days to fix this. People fix it way before 10 days. They don't want the ticket. I think we've only had 2 that have gone to a problem. One of them was a house up on Ludden that was, or not house, that barn that was tipped. We had to deal with that, and that ultimately got knocked down, and then it was put on the tax roll or something like that. And then we had a gentleman who was had disability, and the back of his yard just looked like a forest. I mean, it was every animal back there. And so ultimately we got, I think it was a Boy Scouts who cleaned it all up. And Jay actually helped clean a lot of it. So, I mean, it's time consuming, but the other thing is also, I mean, people pay high taxes in this town. And so I think they want their neighborhood looking decent. So. Right. We do that for, well, they probably argue that that they're busy too. We do that. 10-day compliance is for a lot of things. If we catch someone with a registration, let's say their registration is expired, we give them 10 days to fix it. And if not, then we issue a ticket. Same thing with insurance. There's certain compliance type of, and this is one of them. It hasn't been a problem. We've only had 23. So it's if we had 100 and some, I think the open record thing is more of a problem for Aaron. I mean, we're dealing with that all the time. And I've got to then approve all those open records. So it means I got to review everything. Right. 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 Anything else? Otherwise, buildings moving forward. We've got the footings in. They're going to start putting up walls. We're working through some RFPs regarding like lockers and technology, furniture. We're starting to, put things together so they're ready to go. November of this year. It could even be sooner. They're working pretty fast. So it's going well by what I hear. Right.
They were even studying ones yesterday.
Right. Yeah. Well, we probably want to get it done. Turn it over.
Discussion topics. Number 1, discussion and possible action regarding potentially impaired child.
I sent you guys the email that I received from the person that would like that. Hopefully you had an opportunity to read that. And then I did send it off. Anytime that there's a stop sign, any kind of signage, that public facility is in charge of paying for. I usually send him an email and say, hey, this is going to be discussed. Do you have any opinions on it? And he didn't respond, so I assume he doesn't have opinions on it. But this is what they would like to see. She has autistic children that get away from them, and anybody who's been on Westview Court is very busy. It's highly populated, a lot of cars, because it's all apartment complexes, so people are flying in and out. She's hoping that the sign will slow people down. We have made traffic stops there. We've done other things there too, warrants, other stuff that that goes on in that area, but specifically, they would like a sign erected that basically looks like that. So there obviously is going to be some cost to it, but I guess the biggest question is once you start erecting these signs, there's going to be others. There'll be others because we do have a population of autistic children growing in our community. So I'm not opposed to any of this, any signage that, tells people that, hey, be mindful, but people get so used to signage that, especially in any area, that it becomes nothing, and it's not like it's a thoroughfare where you're going to get people alerted. It's the same. If anytime we deal with traffic, the people in the area are the worst offenders, the ones driving home, driving through that because they get so used to driving through there that they're flying and whatever. But anyways, that was the request. She couldn't make it today because they had something going on, but
What do folks think?
Well, I'm not opposed to it, and see maybe once we start, we should be prepared with a policy. How we close, we won't just put a sign up every time. Sort of. But I'm not opposed to it if it protects somebody.
I mean, to me, it would probably be confirming we actually have those. I would not think somebody's going to come to us and say, hey, I'd like a sign in my neighborhood if their kid isn't experiencing something. This one makes sense because Westview Court is highly traveled. It's a sign, so it's not going to prevent people from speeding or anything. There's no statutory requirement that you follow this, right? It's just more of an alert.
Where would it go? Would it specific building or as you?
I think it probably closest to the highway as possible, I would imagine. I don't know exactly where they live at 2713, so they're deeper in, probably closer to the cul-de-sac area. But you erect the sign, and then which way do you erect it, or do you do one going one way and one going the other way, or or do you do it right by the park where there's going to be children there?
With a quarter of Westview and Berkshire.
Could. I try to think of, but I don't think so. I try to think as I was on, as you patrol through the villages, there's been signs, but I don't think so. And they don't have any enforcement attached to it. It's more like an alert, like hey, this is a blind corner, or a hidden driveway, or But again, it's signage, right? It's just.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not opposed.
I think the only real question is, you are opening up, that there's a possibility that you're going to get more of these. It doesn't mean it'll happen, but once you put up a sign, then. And the village board may say no, but if you guys recommend it, I'll do a memo and say it's been recommended to put that up.
I wonder if we should put together a little bit of conviction, like maybe a suggestion to a possible policy.
That's where I'm going.
Because I can already see it. If we come to that, it's going to be kicked back to us anyway, the policy. We're going to end up with whatever we yell about for an hour.
But what are you hoping the policy will do?
Just, a lot of the questions you just asked, is there, some sort of traffic threshold required for one of these signs to go in, or it can just be, the street anywhere at a time?
Is it one sign, two signs?
Yeah, one sign, two signs, both ways. Who pays, I think,
It's always gonna be a public facility.
Today, I don't think people would, request this kind of thing if they, didn't have a child with it, and I agree with you, but like, do you go as far as a policy like requiring some sort of doctor's note or something? Like, I don't know. What do we do?
I don't know
I
if
think
it's
it's more about standard where you put the signs and things like that. That's.
My guess is there's probably already some kind of standard in the signage portions of that. There's probably a policy on signs.
There's lots of sign policies, but unfortunately, I don't think they're most of these street signs. 90% of it, it could be something a little bit. 90% of it's like business signs and stuff like that. What they're allowed to do. I don't know, what was the other question that you had said? I tried to write them down, but I might have missed them. Anyway, so I don't know. Maybe it's fine. We could go to the village board too. All of the questions that you asked, and I just all the board is going to ask too. So I don't know.
I mean, the only other option would be to not take action on this and then somebody come up with a policy on it. And then bring it back with a policy.
Is it 25?
Yep. And pretty much every city, every village, speed is 25, with exception of Mill Creek and main areas, like Main Street.
Oh, that was it. But like, what do you do with, people move? Is there some sort of process to sign away, or you just leave the sign up the whole time? Apartment, I don't know if they're trying to make it forever.
See, there's a lot, there's just a lot here and more than just a sign.
I think there's maybe 20 minutes of Googling here and figuring out if, if other villages have, some sort of written, here's the things we consider for a sign. Not that we have to take that verbatim, but probably worth our time just to review it. A little bit more prepared with the board with some more information than just we recommend sign. We saw how that well went with painting the stop bar. So my recommendation would be to take no action, someone volunteer to pull together a whole additional information enough to look at it. Because I don't think the version would be my guess too. But you spoke to the resident. Do you think this is a?
To them, it's urgent. So I mean, they want it out. But it does. I mean, it's whatever you guys agree to.
I mean, when this is down, and just hey, I found a couple things out there, and these are the ones I liked.
Sure.
Yeah, it's cold.
Some of the questions that you said. Is there some sort of speed threshold or amount of car threshold to warrant the sign? Does it go both ways on a road facing both sides? Medical diagnosis is required possibly to have, to request the sign? And then what do we do when the sensory impaired child moves? Is there a form that someone needs to fill out to take the sign down? Do you just leave it up forever because it's fine? I don't know.
And then whatever research you do, can you send it to me so I can include it in next month's agenda. I'll send you an email though, too, just so we can connect that way.
Just the residents. Just hoping to happen faster. So it's really getting that now.
Yeah, I'll give her a call tomorrow and just let her know.
Yeah. We want to prevent something terrible coming forward for them. So, new action topic for now. Everyone good with that? Wonderful. Next one, discussion and possible action regarding stop sign.
I think this is coming from PI. You'll see the email from Troy regarding this. They feel that with that their employees are leaving there and coming, there's just a lot of traffic. Feel a stop sign may prevent a crash. That was a request.
So that's a two-way stop right now.
Right, yep.
Park Street.
Yeah, yeah. And so they're looking for one going the other way. I think the way he worded it is making it became a three-way stop.
Going south. But all that's there is the parking lot. Yeah.
Make a stop sign coming out of the parking lot.
That's on the agenda, but do you go as far as following at that point? Yeah.
Will that interfere with traffic? With the stoplight?
With four ways screw up the intersection. Yeah.
Yeah. The request was a three-way to put a stop sign headed toward Main Street.
Is that a public road all the way?
I asked that question of Troy and Troy said it was. I asked the question because I said if it's on private property, you can erect anything private, you can erect whatever you want. It's not enforceable. By law, it's kind of like what you see at malls. Right. But their request is for their employees is to come to a stop. Right. And they're the ones that proposed it, so. Yeah.
Wider outside of. Wider between counters than it is. Between PI and. It seems to line up.
Probably because of trucks, right? So.
And then you have counters that have deliveries there.
Right. Makes it sound like the traffic, people are just flying out of there and they're, and they're just afraid that with school traffic and. It's interesting that they proposed it, so obviously they're the ones seeing it.
Yeah.
And wanna, normally it's a citizen saying, hey, we gotta stop these PI workers from coming out of there, but actually it was Troy, he's, what, his position's what, facilities engineer manager. So he's the one that proposed it, so.
We have to creep out quite
Right.
less in line with what I was supposed to rate, or more likely it's from left to head toward Main Street.
Right.
There might be folks that like four. Cars.
It kind of makes sense. I mean, if you were driving along, and you were on Park Street, you were stopping, and you think it was a four-way in terms of something, but just. If you. Okay. People think.
Well, it's interesting that it is the business requesting.
Yeah, since you don't think it's the business, I'm not really sure there's much other impact, so I flip up this pretty quickly.
Maybe there's a gas station trail now, it's formally created. That road of like TI, through there, where the gas station. It's fine, right? There's fine, there's the fire. Road. Fire access in the back, heads up on. To get a like water, it's impressive. Then that's all we can start.
You made it without that sign, that's fine too.
Understand it's gonna do three-way stuff, or just staying?
It's whatever we want to do.
But it is private property or it's not?
No, we wouldn't be able to act on private property. According to PI, it's not private property. I asked that question right away when they called me.
This is ultimately have to be approved.
Yeah. Yeah, this committee would just recommend for them to erect a stop sign as requested by the PI, whatever his title is. I have to do a memo and then they would approve it or go against it.
I would, you know, maybe not think about a four-way then, just to keep it simple.
And their request is a three-way.
The request is a three-way, and it would just be easier too for the board to, you know,
For this, like, PI is requesting it, public road, so, you know, then that is 99% just their public line, and they're requesting, you know, to have a stop sign there, so. The schools nearby, so you keep them updated.
We need a motion.
Recommend.
A three-way.
Mhm.
I'll make the motion.
Candace, so Randy.
So they put a stop sign, Market Street, facing the, we said it's stop sign.
The northwest corner, northwest corner.
For telecom traffic.
I second the motion.
Let's clarify the motion is all the way.
Secondly, let's third it. That's what you need.
Yeah, I got it. Northwest. Southbound traffic.
The only thought would be, just wise would be, you move for three ways, put the little square under the. That's the three way,
Yeah.
stop signs, so those other three stop signs.
Okay, I can include that in the request.
Details right away. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed, the same. So moved.
That's all I put down for this agenda, just to kind of ease us back in since we hadn't met since September. But the future items. So I'll bring a Chris Kindle after action report. The village board has asked that I do an after action report for every major event, including like trout days, anything bigger. So I plan to do that. Chris Kindle Mart was 3 days.
No.
Well, probably 1,000 more. But anyway, so they're requesting anything with bigger events. So I plan, I mean, obviously I'm gonna do that. There's also going to be a cost component. I just talked to Carly about that today. A finance component because it's costing us overtime to staff these events. And so I think the village board needs to understand that because we actually went over budget on overtime. It's not so much about the events, but events contribute to it, you know, to that. And more so than, I mean, I have staff that I'm just talking myself. I have staff that's willing to do overtime, but you also create burnout when you know, these things are on the weekends. The schedule they have right now is a 6-3 rotation, which means they really technically don't get a weekend off until every 6 weeks. So then to come in on the one weekend that they get off every 6 weeks, it's kind of, you know, mine, you know, and we do have younger officers that are still kind of, yeah, I'll do it. You start having families and husbands aren't going to like that too much. So I think we need to really consider the wellness of the staff and including these guys too. I'm just trying to staff it. And so we just need to make sure everybody's aware of this. And then I will be bringing the 2025 police annual report like I do every year. And then the 4 topics that are kind of left in limbo, the electric scooters, electric bikes. That one I think we need to get moving on because if we create a new law, it's going to require public hearing. It's going to require our attorney to take a peek at it. It's going to require several things. I just sent Matt, the sergeant for the department, to a traffic safety meeting where they discussed this. So I think we need to have a volunteer who's willing to work with Matt. Matt's willing to work on a village ordinance with somebody. But then, I mean, obviously he can't take it to recommendation because he doesn't sit on this committee. So it has to be somebody from the committee. I have some sample ordinances, some sample laws. Wanakee has one, Mount Horeb has one. So I don't think it'll be very hard to do. But we have to also decide what we're gonna do. And just when it was kind of nice out, right after Christmas, there was quite a few out. Because they're cheaper now and people got them for Christmas. So, and they're not riding one at a time. They're like 4 kids together, like a little gang. And these things go 30 miles an hour. I mean, and so it's going to be a problem. So I think we need to curb it. Madison PD has a pretty extensive one. So I asked Matt to look into that one too. Middleton has one. So, I mean, it's just getting together and figuring out what is more important. When Mike Axum was here, he was really frustrated because they were starting to go into the conservancy, into the trails, damaging the trails, but driving real fast because it's kind of off-roading. And then you got people, you've got normal bikes. And so it won't be long before someone crashes or falls. So we need to do something about that. So he's already ahead of the game. I just told him that I would seek a volunteer from this committee to work with him.
We did it in September.
Yeah, I couldn't remember who it was.
I know what I have, but I'm not. I sent you some things that I found.
Oh, it's you.
Yeah.
All right. I couldn't remember and I didn't want to say, I thought it was Candace actually, but I think you want, yeah, I think you wanted a massage parlor. I don't.
My phone changed.
That's right. Yeah. So the massage parlor, I mean, that's on here too. I'll keep Candace. I've got some already ordinances. Um, right. So,
With examples or what have you, we're just discussing
right.
what we found.
Well, I think like we have a mini meeting, like I'll connect you with Matt and then you guys can meet, talk about it, see what you guys are thinking. And then you can deliver the message and whatever you're going to deliver has to come to me first so I can get it on the agenda. Same thing, you and I can meet and talk about it. The massage parlor it hasn't opened up again, so I'm hopeful they learned their lesson and they're done, but we got a plan for the future one, you know.
Well, so that's, it says inspection authority. Are we looking at like what we're allowing in the building?
Right,
Okay,
right.
so that will-
Allowing and what we can do to inspect it. So in order for me to get into that business, I had to get John's that confessed to having happy endings there, and then get a search warrant to get into that place. If you regulate it right from the start, then you don't need, you can walk in there and say, you gotta make sure you're licensed, you gotta make sure, that there was thousands of dollars in that place. The workers were working that business. I mean, they're not getting massages where they have 7 and 10 grand sitting in a business like that. And that's what we found. So, but we had to work. That's why it took me 8 months to investigate it, because you got to work it from the street and monitor it and all of that. They're popping up everywhere. If you drive anywhere, you'll just see open. It'll say open. You know what it is because that's been here way before my time.
Well, yeah, I've been here 8 years and
When I got here, there was the first conversation I had, one of the first conversations I had with the chief, because those things have a negative connotation in the communities. And he's like, yeah, we've had complaints about it. We've just never been able to get into that. So I worked with DCI, which is Division of Criminal Investigation, and Department of Workforce Development to resolve that. But it required like work. You had to actually work it and then you got to get people to admit to those violations. That's hard to do because people don't want to tell you, and the people were coming from, they weren't locals. They're coming from Waukesha County or, over by Appleton and traveling in. So, and parking, and that was the other thing is and then they were parking. It's not like they were parking in front of the business either. So they're parking in the community and walking in. So we had to, right. You had to really work that. So, I mean, there's a couple of times where it was hours of sitting and watching and monitoring staff too, they're monitoring it as they're handling calls, but, we had to put in the time in order for it to actually be able to put the case together. The warrant was easy to get once I had multiple people say, yep, this is what's going on in there. And then I confirmed it. And so that's why it's shut down, because the lady, basically the way I left it with the, worker / owner was, if you have a license, fine, you can work here legally. If we hear any more of any of this from anybody, you'll get arrested. So we had to first work at it as a human trafficking case, make sure that they weren't a victim of human trafficking, and had to do the work. And once I confirmed that that wasn't the case, that they were doing this on their own, then it got pretty easy, because she's no longer a victim. They're no longer victims. Now they're suspects. So I think having a inspection authority is good. It gives us authority to just knock on the door and inspect them. And these things are popping up, like these inspection, like what you found, they're popping up in lots of communities, because these things are everywhere. And the traditional thing is, one shuts down. If you're, you work it enough, it'll shut down, but somebody else moves in, right? Somebody else moves in. So nobody's been there since we dealt with the search warrant. It opened up for a day or two, and then I went back there and said, did you get your license? And they're like, no. I said, you can't be open. you're in violation. There is a state law that requires you to have a massage therapist license. I said, I will charge you with that too. So you got to get one. And I connected her with the state, but that wasn't the intent there. You know, it's not. I mean, it got to a point where I was contacted by her asking if she could just massage feet and if I would allow that. And I said, I don't have the authority. Like, you have to get a license. Like, I mean, like, yeah, and I've had a lot of I've had several community members come up to me and say it's about time. That thing's been just a sore sight and people know that something like it's open all the time and no one, plus people were living there. So that, you know, that was the human trafficking part of it is a lot of times they're living there. They can't leave. So, but we've confirmed that wasn't the case. So I'll keep you on that one and then I'll send you, and then maybe I'll send you an email and see what day works for you. I mean, that one and the scooters, I think is something that I'd like to move quicker because you just never know. Someday they could like come back on and then I have someone else there and there's nothing to do. The scooters, I'm concerned because it's going to take a little bit of work. And then we got to get it approved by the board. But before that happens, the attorney's going to want to peek at it and, you know, and then there's going to be pushback. There's going to be pushback from the community. They're going to say, come on, you know, we just spent $300 on the scooter and now we can't use it. There's going to be pushback. So I think we need to do that. And then the other one was the fireworks and the yellow lines by the mailboxes. The yellow lines was brought up by Bill Brocious. I still don't know exactly what he meant. If he meant every mailbox within the village, because that's going to be it's going to be a lot of money. Yeah, if you could confirm that, what he meant, he was supposed to like send us what he was thinking, but he never did. So, and maybe he's kind of lost sight of it and thinking, because actually would be even better would be that the ordinance of having all the residents have a number on their, I mean, that would be actually more helpful than yellow lines at mailboxes, but we go to calls and we're like, okay, which house is it? Because there's no house numbers, which it's required to have a house number. So, I mean, we've done news releases on it, we've done Facebook posts on it, we've done the news letter and the numbers are free. People can come here and get the numbers. They just have to put them up. So. Yeah, well, now it's pretty standard now, but so it's the houses that you know that are not as updated, the numbers fall off, people rip them off and they're like, I'm not replacing them. You know? Right. Yeah, and
Until EMS is banging on your door at 3 o'clock in the morning.
Right. Or us shining a light, you know, you're shining a light in someone's bedroom and they're like, gee, thanks, you know. Well, we're trying to find this place, like we don't know where it's, you know, it's during the day it's a little easier, but during the night it gets real difficult real fast. So I mean, those are probably more issues than this, but those ordinances already exist. But yeah, if you want to talk to Bill, I do have a meeting scheduled with Bill. So I was gonna bring it up too, see what he meant by that. And then you brought up the fireworks one, so if you wanna,
Yeah, I wrote a suggested ordinance for that we can just look at and.
so I'm gonna keep you on that one. That's fine.
It is, but. Well, no, it's just the wording in the ordinance today is super, super confusing. And no, it is getting worse. Like people are shooting big things, which they shouldn't do. But I've had a number of every 4th of July, people come up to me and go, can I have my fountain that I bought at Costco or whatever? And the answer is yes, but then like they're like, when I put out the ordinance, it reads plain.
Well, the ordinance doesn't give you like what you can do. It gives you a state law. And in the state law, it says you can have fountains.
Yeah.
So when people they're not going to read beyond the ordinance. They barely read the ordinance.
Right.
So the ordinance says you can have this, you can't have this, this and this, these are the exceptions. Fountain is allowed under state law, so it's in there, but it's not spelled out. So maybe spelling it out might, people get so rattled and confused really easy.
I put it in an email to you, but I can pull it out again.
But I had suggested words for the ones.
So,
But then they were like, hey.
so why don't you, if you want to just send it to me, I
Yeah.
can get it. So some of these things, I spread them out just so we don't get stuck here for 2 hours. But I'll, as 4th of July is a little bit out, and that one is just kind of, that one's kind of just a couple, we already have an ordinance, so it's just adding words. I don't think that will be very hard. The yellow lines that I think it's gonna be, if he meant every mailbox, it'd be very expensive.
And what's the purpose of that?
Just to get people not to park there, which state law already prevents you from parking next to, you don't need a yellow. You don't need it to be yellow. You're already supposed to stay away from mailboxes. But right, yeah, that's what's happening. But I don't, honestly, I haven't driven around to see which ones are yellow. There are some yellows, and especially in the new developments, I think they do put some paint down, but
Ours is, it's not quite a can, but like there's now every 3 houses or so, back there, folks.
But they're not yellow paint. People don't park in them.
well, if you want to ask them, I'll ask them too, so we can one or the other.
Done.
That's it. Feature, unless somebody else has something else you want me to add to it.
Is it for the next meeting? February 17th, that's would be the normal slot. That's fine, for focus.
Is it working good for me to send you guys reminders? The main thing for me is making sure we have a quorum. Because if we have a topic, someone shows up, they're gonna be upset. And so that's what I'm really trying to prevent. I'd rather cancel a meeting than have only 2 people show up and say, we don't have a quorum, so we gotta cancel.
That's good.
I'll move to adjourn.
Any discussion? All in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed, the same. So move.